Welcome to this special edition of the Builder's Daily videocast, where we look at evolving edge of operational excellence, digital transformation, and builder leadership. I'm John McManus. Today, I'm joined by two trusted experts and senior leaders from Constellation HomeBuilder Systems, Chris Graham, Chief Executive Officer, and Bob Swainhart, General Manager for the Enterprise Solutions Group at Constellation. We're building off the energy and insights from Build Smarter Customer Conference last fall, where Chris and Bob and the Constellation team engage closely with leading builders, trade partners, and technology innovators. Our conversation today will explore what's emerging, what's transforming, and what's next. And we see that competence and success within a silo don't necessarily add up to organizational success or to what the company is trying to do. So, Bob, can you talk a little bit about the real world where people are able to do their jobs better because they have the optics and the court vision to see other players in real time, be accountable to them and to each other in purchasing, estimating, land acquisition, the whole value cycle in a home building operation?
Yeah, I think that in this conversation about AI, it's really an extension of kind of the messaging that we've had, around ERP and why it's important. It started out years ago as a back office system. Most of the companies, most of the departments in companies, especially the ones outside the walls of the corporate office, didn't even have technology. Then we started building additional modules, and now everybody is in an ERP. We've standardized the data so that they can query that information relatively quickly and get to consistent real-time or near real-time information to be able to make decisions. You now layer AI on top of that, and let's just talk about a purchasing agent. They might be responsible for, I'll just use a rough number, 5,000 options or upgrades that might be available in a community, right? And which of those 5,000 are actually selling? Which of those 5,000 are priced in a place that it might have been fat fingered 7 years ago, but instead of the 40% markup or the 100% markup, it's a 7% markup. And so it's actually costing us, the opportunity cost. Well, how do they, the good news is that with an ERP platform, they've been provided a data set that allows them to query that. But if I'm responsible for 5,000 options, I'm going to be looking through 5,000 lines of an Excel spreadsheet, looking for that one or two that need to be addressed. You layer AI on top of that, and I can actually query and say, show me the options that are outside of our corporate, norms, or show me the vendors, to use as a different example, that have the highest variance purchase costs that are costing me margin against my initial budget. That's information that historically took, you know, minutes, hours to really get into and get answers for, and then be able to make decisions about. Theoretically, now you ask the right question to the AI agent, and you get an answer almost instantaneously, which allows you to pinpoint on the items that need to be addressed, and then take action for the good of the business. So,
Yes, well, now we stray into a tricky part of the conversation because the minute we start talking about the future, we realize it's already arrived in so many ways. So let's look ahead a couple of years. What does a technology enabled, technology powered home builder, the modern home builder, as you say, look like in your mind, Chris? And how does that translate into a digitally transformed organization?
Yeah, I think, for us, there's a few things. One, collaboration is a lot more, seamless, than it is now. You can get the full story of, what's going on within and outside the walls of the office. That extends to the sales office and to the construction trailers and onto the job site. Additionally, the home buyers, should be able to communicate seamlessly with builders, and during the sales cycle, during construction as needed, during their design and upgrade appointments, and ultimately through to customer experience and warranty. But the idea is that with that collaboration, you get better insight into what's going on. You have better access. You have better data. You can make more informed decisions. And the technology that we provide and that's available to home builders will allow them to do that. So I would say there's a lot more like insight and intelligence into what's going on, more timely information available to people, and then a lot more decision support. I don't think it's fully automated, although I would say that sort of thing would be possible. But I think it's more or less having the technology kind of jump out at you and tell you things that you might be needing to worry about or to review in a much more seamless way than it is now. I would also say the employees of a builder, and certainly throughout the supply chain and value chain of home building, will be able to use the systems much more easily, right? And access them much easier than they can right now. They'll have the information that they need wherever they are, maybe much more conveniently than they do now.
And Bob, what about you? Are you getting any kind of an early inkling into how the roles that are sort of traditionally cast inside home building operations, the way they've done things for so many years, and the skill sets, how they're evolving as technology, data, and digital transformation become more muscle memory as opposed to something that's being learned for the first time?
Well, I think that with the introduction of some of the AI tools just into the world, the roles of a typical job, or the responsibilities of a typical job, are going to have to include the capability of querying data in a way that allows you to make quick and easy decisions. Fundamentally, that goes back to having good data in the system. And for a builder, in our case, for a builder to have good data in the system, it really requires fundamentally day one that somebody says system use is not optional, because it drives all of the data that allows us to make the great decisions. So I think you'll see more and more builders mandating system use. Obviously, that data is going to drive decision making, and then anybody that's touching a system is going to have to be empowered to be able to query the data and provide insights based on that feedback from the AI agents or whatever the reporting mechanisms are, to be able to quickly make decisions, pivot, introduce new strategies, etc. And at some point we're going to come out of this tough market condition, and we're going to have a reality where sales of new homes is a little bit easier than it has been maybe in the last year or so. And what I would suggest to all builders is, don't take the foot off the pedal on this focus around operational efficiency and excellence, because in good times builders make a lot of money, and so it's easy for them to kind of ease up on this drive to be a great operator with great insights. And I would just suggest to them that everybody in the company, the rigor that they have around system and data creation today needs to be the norm in not only the challenging times, but in the good times as well, so that you're prepared for the next time it's a little bit more challenging as well.
Yes, and you make a really good point that whether the person is in construction supervision, sales, purchasing, finance, whatever. They now have roles that are not just task fulfillment and competence in operational execution. They have a skin in the game, with the business connecting them to every other part of it and every other person in the life cycle. So Chris, when you think about that, does this redound to leadership issues you as a leader talk about with home building owners, presidents, strategists? Where do they start?
I think like just kind of how Bob was mentioning, you tend to have some inefficiencies creep in when times are good. And you end up, you may try some things that you wouldn't have otherwise tried, or you may have kind of thought some things were important that may not be as important as you originally thought. And so I think any business, like we've seen that in our business, there's just things that have kind of crept in that you otherwise, in more lean times, you may not find as important. And so it's one of the things that I would talk to any leader about is just how can we help you get more out of your system? How can we help give you better insights? I think any time, especially now, any time that we spend with our customers can be extremely valuable. We try to provide value every time we meet, every time we talk with our customers, and it can be using what they have a little bit better, or if they share a problem with us in their business, we may be able to point them to a part of our solution that could help, or introduce them to another builder that may have addressed the issue in their business. And so it's really just having these conversations, using what you have as effectively as possible, and leaning on us as a trusted partner. Again, when you look back to our Build Smarter conference, one thing that hit me is the amount of trust that our customers have in us and in our business. We provide great support. We provide great products. We're constantly enhancing them, and I think it goes a long way. You've been doing that for many years. And so, I think if you take all that, you look at, the value that we provide, you look at just some of the opportunities for doing things a little bit more efficiently now. And when you look at what technology is doing and where it's headed, everybody who knows what they need to do should be able to do it much quicker and much more effectively, much more efficiently. That's what we're pushing in our business, is really, for people, our product managers who have aggressive roadmaps, or our department managers who want to, do things a little bit differently. They should be able to do everything, much quicker than they did before. And I think for home builders, that applies, to every department in their business as well. They should be able to, do price changes, quicker. They should be able to, launch a new community quicker. They should be able to sell a home quicker. They should be able to, resolve a service, issue, more quickly. They should be able to get their financial results out in a more, in a shorter period of time after month end. Like all these things, everybody should just be able to do things, more quickly than they have before.
Chris, Bob, thank you so much for sharing these insights today. I, for one, will be looking forward to seeing you at IBS in February, and you can find the Constellation team at booth S7049. So be sure to stop by and hear more from Chris and Bob.